Okay, guys, now we're heading into ride along number 2 for the third draft that you guys are working on. For this one, I'm gonna show you how I use my notes, our Canva notes, our source annotations, to help me include a discussion about the source's credibility. And I can talk about the source itself. I can talk about the author. And this is part of the requirement for the third draft. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you guys. So if we go back to the assignment, one of the, which again, you could find in weekly calendar and learning series, go to project 2, week 6, and in the calendar, it'll be either Thursday homework or Wednesday homework, depending on your course, third draft. And one of the requirements is that I have to talk about the credibility of the source as part of my analysis. So that's the part that I'm going to do next. Now, the reason I'm choosing to do that next is simply because, you know, it feels appropriate for my writing. Where you choose to talk about the credibility might change depending on, you know, where it makes sense for your writing. But I like to do it. I like to talk about the credibility of the author pretty soon after I introduce the text, because I want my audience to know, like, hey, I read this, and here's the guy who wrote it. And here's, you know, what makes him credible before we jump into the summary, because I want people to understand, you know, the person behind it. And that's also why I ended this sentence with the author's name, so I can start talking about him. My audience is prepped to hear more about the author. If I had ended on the title of the article, then I would just start talking about the article, because that's what my audience is ready for, right? But here I ended with the author's last name so that I can move into a sentence or a couple of sentences discussing who he is and why his point of view qualifies for the conversation for my paper about this topic. And so I have actually done some research on him, as well as the journal that published his research. And I put that in my notes, and that information is in your notes, guys. Let me make my notes a little smaller here. The part at the bottom of your notes, I asked you to determine the credibility of that source. How do you know that source is credible? What do you know about the author and where it was published? And so I have that information right here, right? So what I can easily do is go into my notes and I'm just going to copy paste what I wrote in my notes. I'm going to bring it over to my essay. Now, sometimes if you've written incomplete sentences, you can copy paste and it sounds good. But most of the time, our notes, they are more note-like, and they need to be rewritten, rephrased for that essay. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take my notes and make it appropriate for this essay. So I'm talking about Ulker Shah. I want to talk about what makes him credible. I'm going to say, I discovered that the author is the dean of faculty. And then I'm just going to show that, you know, it's from his LinkedIn. I'm going to link his LinkedIn here. Let me, actually, I should have probably put that in my notes. I didn't, but that's okay. I'm going to go back to his name, and I can find his LinkedIn from there. I'm just going to put a link to his LinkedIn in there. I'm sure there's a way to actually, there's got to be a way to like cite his LinkedIn. Let me see if there's a way to cite Google. Let me ask Google how to cite a LinkedIn profile. Perfect. I want MLA. I want MLA. I like to stay in MLA format. Let's see what they said. The lower examples. I like to, when I don't know something about citations, I go to Google. This is really important. Wherever we get our information from, we want to cite it. In this case, I got it from this website from LinkedIn. And so I kind of want to see how they did that. Okay, so they put the name of the person and the LinkedIn and the link there. What about in-text citations? Write a post and profile. Let me see. I'm going to do in-text because that was the long citation. I want to see what it looks like in-text citation. LinkedIn year URL example. Type LinkedIn. Let's see. Last name, first name. We're going to follow that title. This is the longer one. I'm probably going to good because this is such a new kind of thing. So the LinkedIn is square bracket for the title. Let's see. You know what? This is one where I might go to like ChatGPT or something to help me. I'm going to go to Perplexity AI since it has better sources. I'm going to see if it can help me. How can I in text cite a linked LinkedIn profile? I don't know if it's LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn. What they tell me. What is the in-text citation? The author's name, title, the profile session, citing data is published. That's the long citation. Look like this: name associated with the account and the year. Okay, I'll use that for now because I think that's a pretty good example. So here, I'm going to make sure, and this is just me making sure that I'm covering all my bases because this information comes directly from his LinkedIn, and I want to make it clear to whoever's reading that that is not my writing, that's someone else's, and I'm going to show where that came from. So the name associated with the account, I'm going to go to his LinkedIn. What's the name associated with his account? Right here, I believe that's the name associated with his account. Yeah. And I'm going to come over here. So I'm going to put his name in there. And oops. Let me make sure it's correct without the formatting. And the year, was that our current year? And the year retrieved. So the year that I got this information, which is 2023. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2023, just letting people know where I got this information. And I think I will put, I discovered on Shafiyeva's LinkedIn page, just to let my audience know like where this information is coming from. We always want to be really, really clear and transparent about that. That he is, and I'm just going to come in here. Instead of he, I'm just going to put in his name or his last name, Shafiyeva. Has worked as a second language instructor for several years. He also studied in Canada at the University of Ottawa, and he also studied in Boston. And as I read this sentence, I kind of don't like starting with and. I want it to sound a little bit nicer. Over since the year 2001, he has been engaged. He has had several publications and professional presentations, which I also discovered on his LinkedIn. But I'm not directly citing that. That's kind of like me kind of summing it up. All right, so there I gave a sense of who he was. And so right after I introduce the author's name, I go into a discussion about what makes him credible. Now, I could also talk about the publication and what makes that credible, because I actually did find that information in my Canva. I wrote that as well. So I said that I also looked into the journal where the article was published and discovered it's been around. So I could also talk about this. I can talk about both things. I can choose to just talk about one of the things that gives him credibility. I can talk about both. It's entirely up to you. If I continue, I could go in and add this information as well. here is about the publication. And what I did was I searched on Google. Go back. I searched on Google the name of the article, sorry, the name of the journal or the magazine where it was published. And if I come back here, it was published in the, down here, where is it? The European Journal of Education. So I started to look that information up when I was doing my credibility for my notes. And I found the Wiley's Library discussion of it, where they talk a little bit about that journal. I also found the Wikipedia page about that journal. And so I was able to read a little bit and get some information about that journal, and that it is peer reviewed and who's been in charge of it as in terms of the editors and that kind of stuff. So I got a sense of that publication. And if I wanted to write about that, I could say, I also discovered that the journal where the article was published, titled the European Journal of Education, which has been around since 1979, is a, and I'm just kind of changing because my notes sounded a certain kind of way and I wanted to kind of flow a little bit nicer. The reputable journal that is peer reviewed and has had several renowned editors. The journal's focus is on the impact education has across many fields, such as culture, economics, and inclusion. And I think that's kind of nice. This whole discussion sets up the authority and the credibility of both the author and the place that it was published. So it gives my audience a very clear sense of, like, you know, this particular author and this particular article comes from a well-researched and well checks and balances, right? Like it comes from a place where I believe it is credible, because there's been a lot of people and a lot of situations that have sorry guys, it's late. It comes from people who are experts in the field, and experts in the field have explored it and given it the thumbs up. There's a lot of people involved in determining the quality of this source, is what I meant to say. It's been a long day. It's up to, you know, me, and maybe I say, you know what, it's a bit much, or maybe I want to talk more about the journal than I want to talk about the author. Me personally, I like to talk about authors more than journals, but I think they're both good. I think I might leave both in there for now, and if I don't like it later on, I'll take it out. But this is how I included the credibility of the author and the source. And now I can move into giving a quick summary or discussion about what the author was talking about and how that information is going to help me either answer my question or give me some insights to my question. But those are the next two ride-alongs, and I'll see you over there.